found the GroomPod. Welcome to our virtual salon. My name is Susy, and I'm your host. I'm a mobile groomer from Seattle, Washington, and anybody who knows me will tell you I love to talk, especially about my job. And one of my favorite people to talk to is my friend and mentor and the co-star of this show, the curator of ingredients, Miss Barbara Bird.
Oh, hi, Susy. Goody. I'm so excited about today's show because we got one of my really best besties to interview and to talk about shit. Come on, let's go.
Oh, it's going to be an amazing show, and it is going to be a tease for the webinar that we have coming up on July 6th. So welcome to episode 449 of the GroomPod, recorded on June 1st, because it's June 2025 in Snohomish, Washington, Greenville, South Carolina, and Madison, Wisconsin. This podcast is brought to you by our kind sponsors, Best Shot, Show Season, Precision Sharp, GroomMore, and Stasco. And if you'd like to tip our podcasters or better yet, support Barbara's exciting experiments with foam and all kinds of other neat stuff, you can do so at our website, thegroompod.com, by hitting the donation button. That goes straight to Barbara. Or if you want to support the show on a longer basis, you can join us on Patreon. This week, we are interviewing Chris Sertzel. Woohoo!
Woo!
What's new this week is brought to you by GroomMore Software. If you haven't found GroomMore, you're missing out. GroomMore is an all-in-one software solution for your grooming business. Whether you are a solo mobile groomer or manage several shops, GroomMore has everything you need. 24-hour online booking and forms, routing, credit card processing, reminders, Google Calendar and QuickBooks integration, and so much more. And the best customer service anywhere. Shop, mobile, or house call, GroomMore has you covered. And they're giving us a free month. Just enter GroomPod22 in the coupon code. Well, I think we should start out with a plug for that webinar. I think that's the best way to get this thing going. And it's called Think About It. And it's a meeting of the minds. And we have both of those minds right here. Barbara, why don't you start us off by telling me what you're going to teach? And then we'll have Chris explain what she's going to teach.
Well, I'm going to start out and tell everybody a little bit of fun facts about shampoo and how our present day shampoos have evolved and what some of the key transitions and evolution points have been and what's going on currently. Because when I wrote my book, Beyond Suds and Scent, a lot of the ingredients that we see today weren't in any pet shampoos. So things have moved along since then, and I want to bring us up to date about what the current trends and what the issues around those trends are, and go into some detail about shampoo application methods like the recirculating method, the frothing method, good old hand shampooing, and what the pros and cons of those are, as well as touch in on some of the exotic elements that we're starting to see in products from Korea, Japan, the Asian trends that are happening that have started to drift down into pet shampoos. It's all exciting, and I'll just try to bring some understanding and clarity to today's shampoo scenario.
And Chris, what about you? What are you going to bring to the table?
Yeah, I am hoping to stay on topic because I tend to digress during classes, but I'm hoping to feed right off of Barbara's class. Like she said, it's really important to revisit your material as an educator because our industry is ever evolving. All of the products we use, the tools, the methods, all of that stuff. As an educator, you kind of have to revamp and revisit and stay up to date
annually.
And I'm excited about all the things that are going on in this industry specific to studying canine skin and hair coat. I've always thought we need to spend a lot of time understanding basically the canvas that we're putting our grooming skills on. So my course, following Barbara's, is designed kind of to take the scientific precipice of everything that we're learning from Barbara and putting it into action. So we'll talk about different pre-shampoo methods that you can do for dealing with skin and coat issues. I'll talk about how to care for different types of skin issues and different types of coat with certain products and tools and methods. And we'll go at length into caring for a symptomatic short coat on a Labrador Retriever, kind of like a start to finish in the raw video recording. And that goes over how I do everything for those dogs that are ailing with the shorter hair coat types. And then we'll also hit on like some of the kind of markers for each breed of dog or breed group of dog and what they can sometimes deal with per their breed group for skin and coat care issues.
That sounds just great. I'm so excited about this because our listeners don't really know this, but you and I have been trying to get together to do a duo presentation for years.
Yes.
We've pre-planned and we've gotten hyped up about it, and it's just like for one reason or another, usually related to life, we haven't done it. So this is our first, and we are really putting this webinar in the contents of kind of a process of developing a rapport and a educational relationship,
Collab.
a
Yes, a
collaboration
collaboration.
with the two of us, Chris and I, that is going to carry on. So this is the first. But we've got a Facebook page that's going along with this webinar, and that Facebook page will feature some of our handouts and materials that relate to our presentations that will grow and grow and grow into a library. And we hope to do short and long classes together separately that will be a part of that. And we're just going to build a collaborative context of how we says we both see pets and the pet industry a lot alike. So it's the beginning of something special, and you can be in on it.
Yeah, at ground level.
And the last part of it is going to be a question and answer that I'm going to monitor because that's my part in the game. And you can pre-post your questions on the Facebook group if you'd like to, if you join us on the webinar. But then Barbara and Chris will actually answer these questions in real time and have a dialogue back and forth with their different but the same ideologies and have a real scientific discussion, because here on the GroomPod, we do feel there's better living through science. And it's an old saying, we didn't make it up, but we, all three of us especially, live by it. It's very important. So that sounds like it's going to be great. Let's take a quick break, and then we're going to head into our first appointment, which is just more of these two ladies. This is going to be so much fun. Hang tight, everyone. We'll be right back. Did you know that Stasco has come out with a couple of new products? First, there is the Stasco Oatmeal Protein Conditioner. This conditioner provides exceptional body and manageability and super shiny finishes. And it has a wonderful apple scent that I love. Great in the recirculator, too. And they have a new matching protein conditioning spray, dematting, anti-static conditioning, and finishing all in one, just like the original Stasco spray, but with that delicious apple fragrance. Look for these new products at trade shows and your favorite distributors like Cascade Grooming Supplies. Ready, groomers? Here comes our first appointment. Well, this is a great opportunity because we've got these two people who are just so focused on skin and coat and repair. And Barbara's having an ongoing issue with one of her little Maltese. So, Barbara, tell us what's going on.
Well, this is my littlest Maltese, and her name is Little because she's little. She loves that name. And she has a scaly, scabby, somewhat itchy, but very unattractive kind of a skin problem going that started when I had to put disposable diapers on her to retrain housebreaking, which I had to do when I moved from Arizona, where we were just kind of lived a free-for-all life with an open back door. And carpeting that we didn't care about because we were going to tear the house down anyway. Now I live in a studio apartment and I'm renting. So the house care situation got to be serious, and I've had to put diapers on the dogs. And Marco is still or yet again wearing his. I tried to wean him off it, and my caretaker got upset with the mopping that we had to do, so I had to put him back in the pants. And Little developed this skin issue that looked like maybe it had been an irritation that scabbed over. But when I got rid of the scabbiness, it came back. I thought it was all ready to heal, and I cleaned her all up, and I kind of combed out the scabs, and I exfoliated it a little bit. But the dang scabs came back double. Plus, when I was in the hospital and had my pacemaker and had to be motionless for about 5 days, I put the harness on her so that I could pull her up by the gear and put her on my lap, which she doesn't mind because we've done that before. And an area like right behind her shoulder on her back got the same kind of thing. At first, it felt like a whole scabby area, and then it broke apart, and the scabs cling to the hair. I am not losing hair. And there's no pus or pimples, nothing that looks like diseased hair follicles at this point, anyway. But this greasy, gummy, scabby stuff that just clings to the hair and then it kind of grows out. But if I take it off, it's just going to happen all over again. So I'm freaking out, but I don't necessarily want to go into a medical approach. I'd like to try something holistic. So, I had a talk with Susy, and then I had a talk with Chris. And so let's cover the what's up with the skin that it would do that. She's 11 years old, going on 12.
Is she spayed too?
No, she couldn't be spayed because she has bad liver enzymes that preclude regular anesthesia. She'd have to go for a specialist $5,000 spay job.
Yeah,
And so she's
right.
never had any anesthesia for anything. Does not have a history of any skin problems.
All right. So when we were talking, I'm just going to go right into this. If I hope that's okay. What I was talking with Bert about is all of the work that I do personally with caring for skin and coat issues that come into my salon kind of on the fly is from that holistic approach. And it's not, the new agey, overused type of holistic. I'm talking about really thinking about the dog's total being, whether it's their age, their vetting routine, how old they were when they were altered, if they were, or if they're intact, what type of nutrition they're getting, their hair coat type. Like she said earlier, the age and the sex of the dog is very important, but things like the vetting routine, the nutrition, and the genetic precursors that certain breeds have, like you mentioned, those elevated liver enzymes or out of whack liver enzymes, that is exactly kind of falls into one of the categories of marker that I thought where it could be an endocrine or some type of a hormone issue because of her age. We know that dogs like Little have a drop coat. So when I had talked with you on the phone, we talked about the fact that as those dogs get older, they already don't make a tremendous amount of sebum because they have that weaker rector pili muscle to adequately house the drop coat. And they do have predominant guard coat and less undercoat than some of the other breeds, in line with the fact that they are making less sebum. So as they get older, they typically do become more symptomatic with that crepey, thin skin, fair complected, if you will, meaning they don't have a lot of existing pigment to their skin,
That's right.
and their hair coat is extremely porous. And it continuously grows. They're what's called an anagen growth phase breed, meaning they have a long active growth phase of that guard coat. The undercoat can come and go a little quicker or a little faster, if you will, but the fact that they don't make as much oil, their skin is more thin, they have long hair coat that's always tugging on that follicle. And as as you get older, we all know that the collagen and elastin fibers in our skin change. I mean, on a cellular level, that the follicle expression or the erector pili activity of the follicle, each individual follicle, is more likely to produce either more or less sebum depending on their underlying genetic traits. And typically, your drop coated dogs get more dry in a blanket kind of configuration along the neck, withers, and dorsal area of that dog. And that can be from repeated clipping. If they're kept in long coat, it can just be because their coat thins with age. That's another normal part of the aging process. Their hair is already fine and porous, so it doesn't dispel UV contact the way a darker coat would, right? It really has very little to work with as the dog gets older. So that's when you typically will start to see changes in the dog's skin and hair coat due to different aging markers that have to do with hormones, like your endocrine, whether it's a metabolic or an endocrine issue. But as groomers, obviously we're not vets, so we don't want to diagnose. I looked at the pictures she sent me, and I have a lot of people contact me and send me photos to try to get a diagnosis. So as a groomer, since we're not licensed and we can't practice medicine, I try to stay away from a diagnosis and just really deal with the symptoms. Because if you do that, you can still be incredibly effective and know why you're doing what you're doing without actually uttering a diagnosis to a client that could get you into some legal liability. So when I looked at those crusty things, I said, that looks like Seborrhea sicca. So it's not an oozing, weepy, oily crust. It's kind of soft and then dries out. And hyperkeratosis or different type of hyperkeratinization disorders, again, can be dominant in dogs that have liver kidney function issues or dogs that have that metabolic or endocrine issue that can either just be from the aging process naturally or an underlying defect depending on their genetic lineage, their breeding, if you will. So Barb had told me, yeah, she loves the sun. And I said, yeah, but Arizona sun, laying out in the sun there versus the Carolinas, it's different. You've got a different, moisture point in the air and whatnot. So it could be something that she's come into contact with that's kind of taken up residency on her skin. Maybe not. Maybe it's just generalized pruritus, like kind of generalized dryness from the friction of rubbing back and forth on the harness, the fact that her skin is dry and thin and her hair is longer and maybe getting caught on things, and it's just irritating the follicle. So it's making a whole bunch of skin and a whole bunch of oil to try to catch up. Basically like a self-casting mechanism for the skin to try to heal. I think that's what's going on. I think it is trying to heal, like you said. I don't think it's something that seems like a follicle infection, if you will, but there could be, an overgrowth of yeast or bacteria, and it's staying localized. You said it's not all over. So we would look at, then moving on, now we've got the symptoms in front of us, we look at what products would we think about and why, which is very important for Barb because of all of her ingredient knowledge and understanding different products. Having that foundational education in your toolbox helps you get from point A to point B faster when you're picking what to use and how to use it. So we looked at that, and then we looked at, okay, what methods would we use those products under? Like if we did a clay mask, would we do that before or after the bath? If we did a follicular flushing shampoo, like benzoyl peroxide or salicylic acid. So again, what Barb teaches with understanding the ingredients and the types of formulations in our topical products, they are tools just as much as any brush or comb. And the medicated shampoos they're a medication. They're a liquid suspension, just like anything we get from our pharmacy for us to take. So it's important. Like she and I are on the same page about cycling on and off antibacterial, antifungal shampoos. This is something where I might consider an antibacterial or antifungal shampoo, but I wouldn't continuously use it because they're unmitigated. They take everything away in one fell swoop. So they're taking the good with the bad.
That worries me generally, and it worries me specifically with Little because of her age. I don't expect her to have as great a recovery ability
Right. Yeah.
as a younger dog might. So I've been using the Dead Sea Salt Susy shampoo and cream on her that just don't really seem to do much, although it it does kind of speed up the process of when the scab starts to break loose of the skin.
Right.
So that it indicates some kind of healing is going on. When Chris mentioned to flush the follicles, I immediately thought benzoyl peroxide. I have a good, fairly recently purchased bottle of a good vet shampoo that I could try on her. But Chris had mentioned maybe a protein, and I went to a favorite website of mine that's called Lotion Crafter. Have you ever gone to Lotion Crafter, Chris?
No, that was the first I saw it, and I bopped around. It's pretty cool on there. Yeah.
It's a great kind of do-it-yourself place, and those do-it-yourself suppliers of ingredients are a great way to learn about ingredients,
Yeah.
because they'll give you the benefits and the properties of an ingredient. And I know from my past that Lotion Crafter had high quality clay products. So I went in there and I found a recipe, a formula for a clay mask that is like state of the art.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. Some of the recommended, I love that they had like fermented enzymes that they were recommending
Yeah.
to put on the topical skin. And it's interesting to see that because it's in a scrub. So there's a certain amount of contact time that you need to have with it
Yeah,
too.
yeah. So this particular detoxification mask, it's a clay-based product. You put it on and let it stay on for a while. And because you make it in a jar, so it's like you just would put it where the problem is and let the clay maybe pull up some of the toxins that might be happening that are causing the reaction to make a scab. There's no irritation going on now. She's not wearing the panties, she's not wearing her harness, and yet this is happening, and it came back, and there's growth. It's starting to spread. There are a couple of small areas, one kind of underneath here. I want to kind of stop it in its tracks and do what I can holistically before I go in and throw my money at the canine dermatologist, which is gonna be a lot. But this particular mask, it has clay, and they recommended using the volcanic clay for this particular mask. It has jojoba oil and a number of newish humectant and moisturizing ingredients, as well as two sources of protein, oats and wheat, some sea kelp, a sea kelp ingredient, and it's preserved with a silver ion product. So there's no nasty preservative in it. And it's got sodium PCA in it, which is the natural skin's moisturizing factor, jojoba oil. And I've ordered this, cost me an arm and a leg, and my firstborn, which I didn't have. Susie.
I was wondering who you were referring to.
Yeah.
So I come from a veterinary background. That's kind of where my whole basis was in training. I worked in a vet hospital for a long time. And there is a hypersensitivity to staph bacteria that can happen, which means you go through a course of treatment or the mild infection resolves itself, and then it comes back with a vengeance afterwards. And that's a whole different deal. That really does need to be taken care of, that probably with some kind of a systemic I don't know what they use at this point, but something systemic, if that's what's happening. I'm not saying that's what's happening, but it sure sounds similar to that.
Yeah, and we know that as they get older too, even if we're feeding them really good food, depending on their body's ability to withdraw nutrition from whatever they're being fed, it becomes more and more important to supplement the gut as a pet gets older. Anything they don't need, I mean, obviously you have to be aware of liver and kidney function because you don't want to give too much of anything. But a general immune supportive supplement as the dog gets older boosts their immune system ability so much, because that immune system, we already know, just slowly erodes with time, and it's not able to fend off otherwise normal, what do I want to say, contact with things that it normally wouldn't bother them. So especially something like staph, which is everywhere, if you get an opening in the body, and it has a direct pathway in, it can actually take up residence in the deeper layers of the skin and kind of keep coming back. And that's where you get that resistance that happens with things like pyodermas and things where they are deeper in the tissues, and it takes a longer, and it's usually a systemic protocol where you're taking an oral and a topical, and you can't get it back into place without doing both for a noticeable amount of time. So that's probably something that could be going on. And I mean, her age, alongside from the fact that she is not spayed, which is good, because sometimes these issues can take up residency in a dog even earlier. If they are like spayed or neutered too early, they don't have the ability to fully come into their own on a structural and an endocrine level. And we all know hormones are the internal compass of the body. They touch everything. They work alongside every single mechanism inside the body, from how we metabolize food to mood and sleep patterns to what ability the skin and hair coat has for regenerative cellular growth and replenishment of oils and fending off environmental pathogens. So the skin is very much well, we've always said the body's external what do you call it, immune system, the pet skin. It's supposed to be a barrier, but as they get older and it breaks down, especially if you're losing collagen and elastin fiber density, which changes as we get older. We all know what wrinkles and loose skin are, and crepe skin in human beings. It's the same thing with dogs. It's just that they have a hair coat covering most of their body.
When you've had an area that's been repeatedly itched, that then creates an egress, is that the right word? An entrance into the deeper systems,
Yeah.
and it can actually spread into like much deeper systems, including things like encephalitis. So it depending on what the bacteria is, and we don't know what this bacteria is, so we're kind of just taking a guess here.
Using a topical product that deals with the general inhabitants of skin on a regular basis. So if you're using a dog specific dermatology type shampoo to help clean back the overgrowth of yeast and bacteria on the skin, to just kind of renormalize the area, adjust the pH, help with inflammation. There are different types of bacteria that if you treat it with an anti-inflammatory, it can actually be worse depending on the type of bacteria, because it's sealing everything deeper and deeper and deeper into those layers of skin. So it's important to keep the skin open. I think, the light, gentle follicular flushing, getting everything cut back. And then the biggest thing with dogs like this is moisture, moisture, moisture. Want to watch how much direct UV exposure they have to that skin, because if they do have too much, that can cause inflammation and irritation, which can make the skin oil up, burn, if you will, activate the Langerhans cells. All that stuff can happen if they get too much sun. But we don't think that's what's going on here. I think it is something she's come into contact with, alongside the hair being pulled or tugged on, and her age and her underlying medical issues. So taking a longer look, or a bigger scope of investigation, I guess, is what I'm going for. That would be my way I would approach this too. Looking at her on a holistic level. What's she eating? What's she coming into contact with? How often is she getting groomed? And what are her direct skin symptoms, which are the crust, the lack of moisture, the thinning coat, and that this is happening on her dorsal area where she's coming into contact with friction. You keep like her bedding and her little leashes and collars and harnesses or clothes get washed in like draft or something real ultra gentle, right, Barb? Nothing too perfumed or.
We use a fragrance-free detergent in the washing machine.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to take off her pillow collar to keep her from licking, but when I took it off to take those pictures and everything for you, she immediately started working on the whole area of her back leg and stuff. And for some reason, she's also definitely itching on her lady parts.
Okay. Yeah.
She goes out in my fake grass and scoots around, and it's not her bottom that she's scooching, it's her hoochie cooch. And
So there again, like also the different types of seborrhea, there can be a primary seborrhea, which is genetic, and it can be something that coincides with the liver and kidney function as well. And the fact that you said it is itchy instead of just there, not having outward itch or not deeply inflamed or anything like that to where you could see why it would be itching. That I think this is hormonal, and it's probably an issue of needing to keep it clean and really remoisturizing, rehydrating her on a regular basis, and seeing about maybe feeding her something on a nutritional level to help her with internally having all the building blocks she needs to stay as healthy as possible. Everything they take in for food, it goes to the preservation of the life of the dog first, and anything left over goes to the building blocks for skin and coat. So if there's not a lot left over, depending on how well she's absorbing her nutrients, it doesn't leave a whole lot for skin and coat sometimes.
well, and speaking of getting the most out of her food, she has no teeth.
Okay.
So what we know is that when dogs get to the point where they have just a couple of teeth left, they're not chewing their food and they're not going to access all of the nutrients in their food. I feed fresh pet, and I also feed, as a matter of convenience, Purina moist and meaty.
Yeah, like the semi-tender stuff. Mm-hmm. The pouches.
Yeah, semi-tender stuff, and I sometimes I'll pick up a rotisserie chicken, and I like the dark meat and the skin. And so then for a few days I'll add in the white chicken meat. Sometimes I break open a can of sardines
Okay.
and give them sardines
Sardines are good. Yeah, yeah.
for a little bit over a period of a few days. They just had a snack of broccoli because I had leftover broccoli from night before last, and we ate it for lunch, and they get some of what I'm eating.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a perfect diet, but I think it's a pretty good one. I regularly buy the fresh pet. Sometimes I'll mix the fresh pet and the packaged stuff. It just kind of depends on my attitude towards money. And
Do you see her drinking a lot more water? Is that normal?
she does drink more than Marco does. She does drink more. She makes more frequent trips. Oh, and I also feed bone broth. And I have reinstituted the probiotics, that I have chewable probiotic supplement that I feed them. And I broke that out and put it with my own medication. So in the morning, they'll get that automatically, not just when I think to go to the cupboard for it.
Right. Yeah, that I know how that doesn't always work.
Until your caregiver gets there and he puts it away.
So I will say, if I had another lifetime to live, it would be learning about canine nutrition, because that is another whole thing. I mean, what goes in comes out, right? You guys have talked about that, I know, and Barb, you and I and Susie we're all on the same page. So there can be a lot of salt in that rotisserie chicken. My dogs love it too. So just make sure that if she has a higher salt intake, that could be, you talked about her, having an itchy hoo-ha vulva, that we want to make sure she doesn't have any crystals or anything going on, or anything with her kidney function, because that, again, it's not that it could be causative to her skin and coat issues, but they kind of coincide with each other. And the fresh pet's a good, like, mid-range moist food or wet food. And she doesn't have any tear staining. I saw her face is
No.
clear. So I would just say maybe do a little more research on a supplement aside from the pre and probiotic, something that's full of omegas. I don't know her medical issue, but one of the things I typically recommend is a little bit of what do you call it? Raw coconut oil, a little bit of that, or you can even find out her dosage online, and I do with my pugs, which are probably a little bit heavier than her, but not too much because they're small and not fat.
You could fit 3 littles in one pug.
Okay. So say what
She's
I'm
pretty
saying
tiny.
and multiply or divide it by 3. So they get a full size. They get a full size frozen ice cube of straight coconut oil, a little bit of cracked black pepper, turmeric, and a little bit of minced fresh garlic. I know there are people that say, oh no, garlic's really bad, but I don't have fleas and ticks on my dogs at all. And I like it that way. So, because I don't like to do pesticides. So between the oral garlic, raw, so I'm taking cloves, I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just mincing it up and putting that in those cubes and then freezing it. And they get one of those every day on their food. And it helps with their poops. It helps with their peas. We could look at cranberry stuff or things for urinary tract health since she's getting older too, because that could be part of why she's dragging her rear end a little bit. And we talked about melatonin because that is an emerging recommendation that I'm finding more and more derm vets kind of recommending, especially with certain breeds and different ages of dogs, depending on their coat type. So that might be something to investigate too. But in the grooming salon, yes, I keep getting sidetracked here. We want to cut back the overgrowth of the possible yeast and bacteria in the area with some type of a mild follicular flushing shampoo. I would be careful with mechanical exfoliation, like scrubbing it too much.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's how I felt too. And of course, it
Yes.
was my caretaker who is my bather.
You're a bather or Little's bather?
Little bather. Yeah,
Okay.
not my bather yet. He's one of those typical people that want to go after and remove all the scabs like right now.
Yeah.
And I did try exfoliating stuff in the very beginning, and I just said, no, this is not working because it was like creating more scabbiness, not less.
Yes.
How about gently combing out the goobers?
I think if they're separated from the skin and they're free floating and stuck on a strand of hair, yeah.
Pulling on the hair follicle if we do that.
For me, I would take her and I would apply your mud mask directly to those spots without even wetting the coat. I would put her in the tub, put her someplace where she's secure, apply that by hand on the localized areas, and then cover her in a warm, wet towel for about probably 7 to 10 minutes to let that have some contact or activation time and do its work. We know that clay it absorbs and adsorbs. So whatever it superficially pulls up out of the skin, kind of like a poultice works, it will hold on to that and not re-release it. So clay is really, really good. And I heard you mention too in that mask that they have humectant additives, which are really important because those pull mild amounts of moisture from the environment. They help to retain more balanced hydration levels. Dogs like her have a higher likelihood of extreme TEWL, so TEWL, which is transepidermal water loss. And that gets worse as they get older, yes.
Right.
So that you need something to help restore the barrier function of that skin so that it can hold on to some moisture itself.
And the oat and wheat protein will help that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a good find, this recipe, and it hasn't arrived yet. The ingredients haven't arrived yet, so can't get started.
You need to make a formulation video. Oh, I would love to watch that. Love to watch that. Watch you put it together.
Yeah.
Like you don't have enough to do.
Yeah, right. It's like a 3-phase. It's a pretty intricate recipe, actually, but I know that I can do it, and I have a scale and I've got everything that I need to make this, and I'm going to make it, and I give it 4 to 6 weeks to see improvement. And
Yes.
if I don't see significant improvement in 2 months for sure, but maybe sooner than that, I'll go hop off to the dermatologist. We have a canine dermatology clinic here in Greenville.
Yeah, the way the skin cells turn over is normally 21, 28 days, so about a month. But I have a lot of people who try to start dealing with skin and coat that will ask me, how do you know how often to see them? And our clients are, with our own dogs, it's way easier to put them in the tub and get on top of things and stay on top of it. When you have a dog come in as a client, you can't always get them to come in twice a week or once a week. But I typically say at least once a week for the first month. Yep, because then you've got a full cycle of desquamation or cell turnover, if you will. And you'll start to see if you're working in the right direction, you'll start to see those symptoms subside. Another thing too to remember is that bacteria and yeast tend to make the cells turn over faster. So that's why you're getting that crust, right? And I think that if you were able to do this maybe twice a week, I know that's a lot, but maybe twice a week with that protocol of the pre-shampoo mask, and then whether you go to either a benzoyl peroxide follicular flushing shampoo or a protein enriched shampoo, you can go back and forth between the two, right? So you're not overly stripping too much. And then after you start to see the symptoms subside, then go to weekly. And I bet within a couple visits, every 2 to 3 to maybe 4 days each week, having her in, and then going to once a week and then going to once a month for a while, it should be completely gone within the next probably 10 to 12 weeks at the most. And it's also normal, I should mention, if she gets itchy after this treatment, remember that the skin sometimes will purge after a detox like that, and it can actually cause some itching for a while. So sometimes it'll get worse before it gets better.
Healing always itches.
Healing does itch. You're right. You are right. Yes, yes. So it's important to keep her from not tearing up her skin.
Sounds like we got a plan going. And of course, I'll keep everybody informed. And if I can do a formulating video, I will.
I just think, too, think about how much research you would have to do in the moment on the fly and how much money you might spend if you didn't know what was in what you were looking to use and why. I mean, so many groomers in our industry, they don't know what's in the stuff we're using or what to reach for. And you spend a lot of money and a lot of valuable time in the veterinary industry knowing what you have in that equation as quickly as possible gets you better results faster. And that hinges the overall health and safety of the pets. This information that we're talking about is so foundationally important to every groomer, I think, that's going to do this as a career. Also in terms of our liability, right? Taking a dog in that has an open sore or an open abrasion and pouring shampoo on it that's going to burn and itch and get deeper into the skin. So, yeah, think about that. You knew what to look for and you knew why and you found it.
I knew when I saw it,
Yeah. Yeah.
just starting to tick off
Right.
categories that you and I had discussed. And I said, well, this is the stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And even me, when I read the ingredients, I could see a few things that I knew what they were, but I didn't know what all that stuff was. I'm glad you did because I sat there and was like, okay, I see stuff for humectant. They've got, fermented like active enzymes that would help to rebalance the microbiome and the pH. Yeah,
Yes.
it's a pretty neat product. Maybe you should make it for sale for dogs if it works.
It would be expensive.
How expensive is a dermatologist?
Right.
Well, that's right.
Why not try something?
That's why I thought I might as well try something
Yes.
before I go and just become totally dependent on the doctor and their contact with me. I mean, I don't want to have to go that often. I don't want to go there unless I really must. And so I thought I'll just give it one more broad yet specific, if that's possible, one more
Yeah.
chance at really figuring out. So I'm pumped.
Cool.
she's going to hate me for it. She doesn't like being bathed once a month, much less
Oh,
twice a week.
oh,
Bathing it's her nemesis. She's so little. She's so afraid of drowning.
right. Oh, my pugs are that way though too because they have no
Yeah.
nose and they're always afraid of what. I mean, I'm careful with them, but hey, we are owners. It's for their best interests. And yeah, I know. I get it though. I mean, I had a pug that had interdigital cysts on both his back legs or both feet, and I knew it was because he was still coming together. And lo and behold, he's 5 years old now and he's got two bad knees. So just understanding the dog's physiology and their breed characteristics, God, that's so important to trying to deal with these cascade of symptoms that we sometimes see in the salon.
Well, thank you so much. Wow.
Well, thank you.
Okay, let's take a break and hear from our sponsors real quickly. And then I've got a question for Chris, too. She's not expecting it, so we'll see what happens.
Show Season has a great enzymatic cleaner called Kennel Fresh. And you dilute it with warm water and it smells good. And then it evaporates to be a deodorant. As the Kennel Fresh dries, it's enzymatic. It eats the bacteria and the odor source. So it's really good stuff. You can use it indoors or out. Find it at your local distributors or showseasongrooming.com.
The GroomPod and Precision Sharp would like to invite you to check out the newest precise cut shear called Lynx. Its patented design features a thumb ring that slides the length of the handle for perfect ergonomic placement of your thumb. Slide it, lock it into place, and get your best grooms on. Check it out at precisionsharp.com. All right, this is going to be fun because I'm battling this dog that has no hair regrowth in his black spots, but has regrowth in the white spots. Starting from the beginning, this dog is fed by his human a home-created diet that is absolutely incomplete. This is the second dog they've had. This is the same skin condition coming up with this dog as it was with the first dog. The dog is slightly overweight. He's a Havanese. He's probably 4 years old now.
That's all.
Yeah, had no problem for the first couple years. I don't know why I didn't question the diet first of all, because they had done it to the other dog and I zeroed in on the diet from that one. So here we are. They've changed the diet. They're on a commercial diet, which is much more friendly to him pretty much everywhere else. But I'm not getting any regrowth in this black hair. The white hair you can see is coming back. And it's not necessarily location, although this is all dorsal location. So I asked them if he rolls and scratches on his back, and he does that in the yard. I'm not 100% sure it isn't something in the yard that's causing it. What can I do to repair this damaged hair follicles that refuse to grow back?
Well, so he's 4 years old. Is he neutered?
He is neutered.
He is neutered. Okay, so the hair that's coming in on the white areas, is that predominantly porous, like cottony fine undercoat, or is it nice, harsh, wiry guard coat?
Looks harsh.
Harsh, wiry guard coat.
So you've got not coat arrest, but a type of alopecia that's affecting the secondary hair coat. So are his dark spots completely bald and shiny, or do they have fuzz?
They don't have fuzz. They have intermittent guard hair.
Okay, so kind of like a crested, right?
Yep.
So you could very well be dealing with something that he is coming into contact with alongside of his breed type that is causing some type of a coat arrest with that dark coat. So the hair that comes out of a darker pigmented follicle, if you will, for lack of I won't go on at length, versus a lighter area of the skin, you're going to have a different type of texture on the guard coat, and you may have a different type of guard coat to undercoat ratio. I know from party poodles, having those dogs, you get the best of both breeds. You get the Brillo harshness from the white hairs and the loft and density from the dark hairs. So typically, your darker hair will be more coarse, and it is harder for that hair to come through the follicle if it's been. So, was he shaven?
He gets a yellow comb. That's as close as we go.
He gets a yellow comb.
And I'm
Okay.
not even cutting hair right now on him. I'm just bathing.
That definitely sounds to me like something either hormone or endocrine related inside with his sex and his breed type, or something that he's directly come into contact with. Is it just a larger one dark spot, or is it every dark spot on his body? Is he dappled, I should say, or?
He is fairly well split between white and dark patches. They're patches, though, they're big.
Okay. Okay.
His legs are fully haired.
Uh-huh. Yes. Very rarely do you see when you have coat loss, it's never usually on the legs. It's always on the trunk or the barrel.
His feet are yeasty,
Okay.
but
Okay.
his back is not.
Okay. Is there anything like, do you ever have owners that have like hormone treatment, anything on their lotion, like on their hands, or a hormone lotion that he's coming into contact with? Because that can cause it too. Just weird areas of bald spot or coat arrest, depending on what they come into contact with. So that's one idea. Perfumes and lotions that are on the owner's hands when they're petting him, and the stuff that he could be rubbing up against in the lawn. Those are the things that kind of stick out at me the most. But the fact that it is only on certain areas, certain color, that says to me that I think that's hormones, something that's coming into contact with that follicle that's causing it not to regrow coat. But the differences in the type of coat that grow from a darker skinned area versus a lighter skinned area would only exacerbate or make the problem worse. So that, I mean, I could be wrong, but I would try. I have a Havanese breeder who sometimes will clip down her dogs when they're done whelping or done showing. And I've had to pull back coat on a few of those dogs. And believe it or not, gently rolling the dead hair out, any fuzz you can get, like if they have like that little vellus fuzz on them, if you can get a hold of that and just lift it out with your thumb and forefinger. Any guard coat, if you're able to pluck any guard coat that's in those follicles and look at the tip, if it pulls out a bundle of cells along with it, then we know we're looking at something that is causing the epithelial cells in the follicle to keep sloughing, and that will also interrupt the hair growth phase. So if you get, you pull hair out, sometimes dogs that have a bad bacterial infection, you'll pull out, or like Malassezia yeast too is another one that causes the skin to get dark and cobblestoned. And when you pull the hair out, it will have a bundle of epithelial cells, or cells, I should say, on like the sheath on the end of the hair where the matrix is, and it will come right out. If you have that, then you have a presence of either bad overgrowth of bacteria or yeast. And then antibacterial, antifungal shampoo in that area, protein shampoo to follow up, and a good cream conditioner. But on that, if you can't get a hold of any of the hair, to pull it out by hand or with a gentle carding knife, like a fine tooth carding knife laid flat. If the skin is weird looking at all, then I would do a mask, something to pull out what could be lurking in that follicle.
So you can see there's a little dander up here, a little bit of
you got a
dander, but
picture?
for the most part, and a little bit down here. I don't think there's any undercoat on this dog, even in the white spots.
Okay, so he's more of a single coat, which again would indicate hormones.
Okay.
Something metabolic or hormone related, it could be. So then, I mean, we're back still to square one. You have to deal with the symptoms at hand, but you just keep it in the back of your head. That may be something that we have to address, or you have to address every time that he comes in, the older he gets, because it could get worse. And this may be the new norm, and we want to keep that skin moisturized and supple as much as possible to avoid scarring, because if you do have scarring of the follicles on too deep a level, it will not grow that rich, dark, undercoat. You'll get the cottony secondary hair or the lighter colored hair way faster than you will the dark. So That's how I would do it. And re-oiling it and re-moisturizing it is really important. Just mention to her, do you have anything on your hands like a lotion? Or it's kind of weird to ask an owner about whether or not they're on hormone therapy, but I can't believe how many dogs have a bare belly or a bare side on one side because they're always carried under their mom's arm.
I can ask my clients anything because I'm very much part of the family.
Right.
So I will absolutely ask that question and do a follow-up report if I find anything interesting.
Sure. It could just be a lotion or a perfume that doesn't agree with him. I mean, even me, I have thyroid issues. I've got issues. I know that, well, I've got issues, let me tell you, but medical ones. And my hair, talk about having to learn and connect the dots, because a lot of what we deal with hair loss and things on our head as women has a lot of the same precursors and markers to dogs dealing with hormone stuff. So we have tremendous amount of differences in our physiology, but a lot of similarities too.
All right, mention the webinar again. It's July 6th. It's $150. It starts at 7 a.m. Yes, that's early. 7 a.m. on the Pacific Coast, and it'll be 10 a.m. on the East Coast, and you guys do the math in the middle, and it's going to be so much fun. I hope everybody wants to join us. I don't know why you wouldn't want to join us, because we're fun. Gee whiz.
It is going to be fun, and it's going to be a lot of really helpful info. I mean, for that fee for a full day, that's a lot of information.
I agree. I think it's a Ganga, and it's the beginning of a very special collaboration between Chris and I that is going to build and grow and blossom. So let's get on it.
Yeah.
And hopefully just the start of the GroomPod being able to produce Barbara's stuff, which is fun for me. All right. Thanks for being here, everyone. Remember to support our sponsors. Chris, tell us where people can find you.
Oh, all over Facebook. I don't do a whole lot on there anymore, but I'm there. So I also have Canine Esthetician, and that's with an E, not an AE. Canineesthetician.com is where you can find out more information about the CCE course. Or you can go to chrissertzel.com. Chris, just like it sounds, CHRIS Sertzel, S as in Sam, ERTZEL.com is my home hub for all the classes and all this stuff. But I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all that life-sucking, time-sucking, so anti-social media platform. I'm there.
Barbara, delightful to spend the morning with you as always. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us. We really appreciate it. Happy grooming. See you next week on the GroomPod. Bye-bye now.
Take care of yourselves because we love you.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
Bye. Thanks for being here. It was great fun.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, by the way, just for being on the podcast, you will receive in the mail, as soon as I receive them, a keychain with the GroomPod logo on it.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
Unless you'd rather have a comb.
No.
Would you rather have a comb?
No, I will take whatever you give me. Thank you. Yes.
All right.
I love swag.
Thanks for being with us. All right. And you guys, if you want to get a keychain or perhaps earn a comb with the GroomPod on it, stay tuned because we're going to be giving some of that stuff away. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.